Wilfred Edward Salter Owen was the first child to be born to Tom and Susan Owen at Place Wilmot, Oswestry, Shropshire in 1893.
There. March 1894. 1 year old. Wilfred Edward Salter Owen. I kept this, your first lock of hair, kept it safely in my jewellery box. And your letters, Wilfred, your letters, 20 years of them, 20 years. 20 years since you wrote me your first letter. You were 5 years old. And I wrote to you as diligently, though perhaps not as enthusiastically. April 1907. My dearest Wilfred, I am enjoying the rest at my sister's after the strain of the new house move to Shrewsbury. The children are behaving.
My own dear mother, we went to Grandpa's to tea on Saturday. They were talking about you, how you didn't take enough fresh air and denouncing your habits of staying in. They don't know that it's your self-sacrifice for us. I do, though. I never forget to pray for you. Father has suddenly decided to get me a new suit. He says I ought to have long trousers and a collar. The idea of not asking you. But Father did say then, oh, we'll wait till Mother comes home.
I needed your prayers, Wilfred. I remember you told me about the sermon that you heard when staying with your aunt and uncle in Wimbledon. You were 15. Ah, here it is. We went to church on Thursday with Dorothy. It was a very good address. He took the meaning of the word man in Hebrew, where it means a weak and feeble one. In Greek, one who prays. In Latin, a strong one. And in English, one who has the power of thought. Be the one who prays, Wilfred. Be the man who prays.
And in English, one who has the power of thought. We are having a simply splendid, scrumptious, delightful, glorious, majestic, exquisitely excruciating time. Tea will soon be ready. The last day of the year is now closing, and so must this letter. With best love from Wilfred.
Wilfred. Such a quantity of matter, and such a quality of writing, and such a passion for poetry. So you will be pleased that I attempted some myself.
Mother, your verse was really clever and in correct metre too.
Thank you. Wilfred, I intend to ask the canon about St. Aidan's Theological College. I would hope that you might serve the Lord as a clergyman. A life of the poetry of his word would surely be congenial to you, but there is, of course, the burden of fees.
My dearest mother, do please call upon the canon and ask him about the fees, etc. Certainly, if it is possible, it is my wish to get into such a college. As to whether I mean to be a clergyman is a different matter. You will know I don't ask myself, is the life congenial to me, but am I fitted for? Am I called to the ministry? And it is my sure conviction that it is possible to serve him, as you say, in any station just as well. Perhaps you think me still hopelessly undecided.
This concerns me, Wilfred. Indecision is rapidly turning into distraction. Why is it you find it so difficult to distinguish between aimless drifting and serving God?
My preeminent plan is to borrow or become possessed of just £150, with which sum I can get a degree at college. Failing this, teaching in a secondary school might be tried. Studying with a correspondence college at the same time, or
serving some hard-work parson.
Parish work would not by any means be uncongenial to me, and, as I suppose, far less worrying than teaching. And I could render myself companionable to anyone if at all literary inclined. So, I shall put myself at the mercy of a reverend man, who may be exacting, eccentric, intolerant and all that. A year or two in France after that, and I should be worth something.
Mr. Robson has heard that Reverend Herbert Wigan of Dunstan wants help in the parish this winter. Go to see Mr. Robson again.
I did go to see Robson. We had afternoon tea in the drawing room. The comfort afforded by the luxurious armchairs was somewhat impaired by the fact that we held our cups in our hands and had no plates. Nevertheless, Mr. Robson, by his humorous stories, made us feel so much at home that I remained perfectly placid and imperturbable when I dropped a large portion of cake into my unfortunate teacup. No liquid escaped the cup, and I am firmly convinced that I succeeded in conveying by degrees the soggy blobs of dough into my mouth without my host suspecting it and thinking me a bounder. Awaiting your reply, including father's opinion, of course.
I am satisfied with the result. Do you think you will now pass your London University matriculation entrance exams?
Oh, me. What a time. The heat has been simply appalling during every exam so far. And what with the excitement and 400 roasting bodies jammed around me, my brains have been spluttering in my head. Perhaps it is a good thing the weather has been so oppressive, as it will be a really good excuse in case of found wanting. Have I passed? I do think so. Even in arithmetic. I am, as you may guess, very light-hearted.
Wilfred Owen passed his matric in 1911 and became an undergraduate of London University. In October of that year, he took up residence at Dunstan Vicarage.
Dunstan Vicarage, 23rd of October, 1911. I am mostly happy, and the consciousness of bringing a stray gleam of pleasure into a sick room is in itself infinitely pleasurable. I will find it hard to part with the boys if I stay much longer. Consumption is all around us here. Scarlet fever and diphtheria are at work nearby. God grant that his mercies in keeping our dear family together may be continued long, long years to come. And do you mind and not get influenza? Someone else got quinsy here. Oh, what tremors I have lest you should get it again. I have received the knitted slippers. Your devoted son.
Wilfred. I am glad you like the knitted slippers. How is your carbuncle? I'm glad you acknowledged the parcel. I can picture the delight in the children when they can hear the rustling of the paper in your pockets. But how are you occupying yourself?
How am I occupying myself? During the whole of this afternoon, we accomplished nothing. My boredom was complete. Oh, how I stand. Yes, and sit, lie, kneel, and walk too, in need of some tangible caress from you. Ink-slung ones are all very well in their way, and no one appreciates them more than I do, but my affections are physical as well as abstract, intensely so. And confound them for that, it shouldn't be so. What if I feel strange in your company after all this time apart? As I have done before after but a fortnight. Surely that was the same I and the same you. Then, when I recall the past, I often feel pretty sick at all the abominable rudeness, ingratitudes, huffs, grumps, snaps and sulks levelled at you.
Wilfred was finding it difficult to keep up his work at the vicarage, but Susan had asked Wilfred to wait until 1914 before taking his intermediate exams. He was already becoming disillusioned with the religious life, however, and he was writing poems.
Before my time I bear a hoary head, and chill airs strike my brow, that blow, methinks, straight from the icy cavern of the dead. Night darkens round, my day shall know no afternoon. Oh, never mourn, my brothers, well ye know these crimson stains shall vanish from the trees, washed by the precious ointment of the snow. A little while, and drowsy earth's disease shall feel the healing quickness of another June. I only mourn, because I cannot tell what spring renewing wakes the sleep of men. I do but know, this I know too well. I shall not see the same sweet life again, nor the dear sun, nor stars, nor tender moon. January 4th, 1913. Murder will out, and I have murdered my false creed. If a true one exists, I shall find it. Escape from this hotbed of religion I now long for more than I could ever have conceived a year ago. Where in me is the mighty power of verse that covered a multitude of sins in Shelley and Coleridge? It is true, I still find great comfort in scribbling, but Lately I'm deadening to all poetic impulses. But there is a sonnet that occurred to me this morning.
Although on many and many a sacred time, poets have spoken as if they knew my woe, though as it seemed they fashioned many a rhyme to be my own soul's cry, easing the flow of my dumb tears with language like deep sobs. Yet there are hours when richest hoard of thought hold nothing for me. No heart throbs my throbs, no brain yet knew the things wherewith mine's fraught. 'Tis then I voice my own dim reveries, low crooning of a motherless child, in gloom who fain must sing himself to sleep are these. Tonight, if thou shouldst lie in that same room, dreading the dark thou knowest not how to illume, listen, my songs may haply give thee ease. Oh, Wilfred, how can they give me ease? This heart throbs your throbs. You are not a motherless child. Don't fear the dark.
Whatever Wilfred's views on religion later on, it was clear that his time at Dunstan had changed them profoundly. He was now headed for France. Before he left, however, he was plagued by ill health.
I am convinced it was tuberculosis, and although you assured me that this time you had no fantasies or horrors, it has left you at a weak point. I cannot help feeling that you have thrown away your best chances for the future, good exam results, and a church career. And what hurts beyond everything is that you should think our religion a false creed. Your teaching job in France may boost your spirits and mine, and you can return in the spring for another attempt at the scholarship.
Wilfred had made the break and was to remain in France for 2 years.
Dearest Wilfred, I think I must now have a fit of the blues, for I fear for you all the time you are in France that you will be ill again.
My darling mother, it was not a fit of the blues. It was an instance of the unconditional sympathy that exists between us. I have, however, been rather low, and only lost my headache beginning last Friday week, this very morning. I have taken my courses sitting in an armchair with a thick overcoat on and looked, and sounded, I suppose, like a nonagenarian bishop addressing a confirmation. Tonight, every family in France turns its thoughts to its dead. Oh, but the melancholy of those bells. These things are not to grieve you, sweet mother.
Not to grieve me. Oh, how keenly I miss you, I cannot say. Oh, Wilfred, if only I were as strong as you say I might be. And I do feel and so right, so badly in this state. Now, please note that I have made myself out to be much worse than I am. Therefore, do not tell any friend or relative that I am ill. I am ashamed of myself.
God shield you, my sweet mother, and bring us together both stronger than when we parted.
Your devoted Wilfred.
June 1914. I have urgent news. This morning, a Parisian lady, distinguée, asked if I would like to spend a month with her in the Pyrenees, as she must speak English before October. Her husband is a man of letters. They have a villa in a mountainous, marvellous spot. I am in great excitement.
July 1914. My first sight of the mountains was highly exciting. The villa is snugly placed on a hillside not very far from the town. It is not conspicuously comfortable, but I am very content here. Oh, what luck!
The news of war made a great stir in Bagnères. Women were weeping all about. Work was suspended. Nearly all the men have already departed. I hope you don't feel the least anxiety about me. I escaped from Bordeaux in the nick of time. Here I am in the hands of most amiable friends, away from danger to life and sure enough of food. I shouldn't like to be in Germany. Your own happy, safe, fortunate, and devoted son.
The news of war today is decidedly bad. We understand that the Germans are over the frontier in northern Belgium, and French and English losses are heavy. We are very unquiet. I feel my own life all the more precious and more dear in the presence of this deflowering of Europe. The world is madder than your own bundle of eccentricity.
The Daily Mail speaks very movingly about the duties shirked by English young men. I suffer a good deal of shame. Now I have leisure, health, and a snug retreat and many friends. Others have military drill, fatigue, stone floors, desperate enemies. But I play with my little axiom, that my life is worth more than my death to Englishmen. I may be led into enlisting when I get home, so familiarise yourself with the idea. And if once my fears aroused for the perpetuity and supremacy of my mother tongue in the world, I would not hesitate now to enlist. Do you know what would hold me together on a battlefield? The sense that I was perpetuating the language in which Keats and the rest of them wrote. Write immediately. What am I to do?
What a mixture of things my reply must be. Oh, that I could talk to you, Wilfred. Nevertheless, all the mottos of a million Christmas cards could not impress you and express my affection for you. You who most care for me, you who know what I wish for you. The greatest happiness of the day and the season will be the reading of your letters. Your faith is indeed like a weathercock, but your hope is like a high tower, a high spire, and your love is as wide as the wide world. But you seem to be without a footing in life.
Mother, I have one. It is as bold as any, and I have kept it for years now. I was a boy when I first realised that the fullest life livable was a poet's.
Then you cannot tell, and you cannot let the carelessness and the cares of this life, indolence and time do their worst. You have indeed sown your own wild oats, and your harvest of poppies is yet more abundant. But merely to field dreams.
I pine spiritually for need of talk with you, my dear mother. I like no audience but either the whole world or you. There is no other with enough sympathy or understanding. The older I grow, the better I understand your devotion to me, to us all.
I have copied out some hymn words for you, Wilfred. Your present life, as your father has pointed out, is leading nowhere. If you studied, you would at least have the means to make a comfortable future.
A comfortable future for myself is to be provided for by other means than study. Of the various prospects of the world which I have viewed, I found only one field in which I would work willingly and toil without wage. Alas, we must wait for the watering of many seasons before hoping to produce therefrom a single acceptable flower. I have my foothold. I know it now. But I have still to know whether it is the highest and richest, though I begin to think so.
Wilfred did find time to return briefly to Shrewsbury. In London, Kitchener was appealing for 300,000 more men. Wilfred returned to France in June of 1915.
16th of June, Bordeaux. My first few hours back in France were troubled with real nostalgia. I felt responsible for coming out here again into a far different atmosphere. And my first step on its soil was a spiteful kick. Extraordinary how foreign everything flavoured again.
Oh, Wilfred, you do seem a long way off.
I noticed in the hotel in London an announcement that any gentleman, fit, etc., returning to England from abroad will be given a commission in the Artist Rifles. Such officers will be sent to the front in 3 months. I don't want the bore of training. I don't want to wear khaki, nor yet to save my honour before inquisitive grandchildren 50 years hence.
I do not think they will take you into the army, Wilfred. You are not strong.
You fear I might never get into the army? Absurd. They take what they can get, even wrecks like me. There is no excuse for a letter. All my news is in the future. Rifles training begins in London, continues in Epping, and finishes in France.
Vision good in each eye, height 5 foot 5 inches, chest 36.5 inches, physical development fair. Apparently nothing wrong with the heart. Return to be sworn in.
I have been examined again and passed. This time it is done.
I am in the British Army.
Wilfred Owen entered the British Army on the 21st of October 1915. He was at the head of the final surge of volunteers. The frontline maps in the newspapers were telling their own story.
So, Wilfred Salter Owen, it would seem that my dreams and hopes for your future are now in the hands of the enemy. My baby is now in uniform.
We were inoculated for typhoid. There were scores of Tommies taking the ordeal before me. One fainted before his turn came merely by description of the possible symptoms. You will be glad to hear that although it is 3 hours ago, I have no constitutional symptoms whatsoever. I feel so physically happy, I feel it might have been morphine injected. We have sick leave until Monday morning. The poetry bookshop, 7 minutes walk away.
Do you want me to send you some pajamas? Wilfred, I'm sending you another parcel. There will be handkerchiefs and chocolates. We have a dog now.
What breed is the dog? The parcel came this morning. The handkerchiefs were just in time and the chocks I seized with schoolboy relish. 19th of November, 1915. Had your letter and the socks. We've had a rough time again today. Up at 6 once more. 3 out of the 100 men took cold shower baths. I was one of the 3. But holding rifles frozen over with snow was ghastly. I have an extra blanket now. The food has been so-so. Send pajamas. Thursday, 23rd of December, 1915. Dearest mother, I've had no letters today. Goodwill let there be, but peace is a word that jars today and a word for hushed breath. I shall write continually, but this poor sheet may be the one to carry you my dear Christmas wishes, the most ardent and solemn of any year yet.
14th of January, 1916. Wilfred, I'm sending you another parcel.
I have enough socks now for the winter. Thank you. I've just scraped enough points together to be a first-class shot. Many of the men are second and more a third. "29th of December, 1916. At Folkestone. There is a boat at 11:30. More I know not."
Wilfred disembarked at Calais and took the long train down to the base camp at Tarbes, where soldiers were given vigorous training for the trenches.
1st of January 1917. My own dearest mother, there is a fine heroic feeling about being in France, and I'm in perfect spirits. A tinge of excitement is about me, but excitement is always necessary to my happiness. I don't think it is the real front I'm going to, so have no anxiety. I cannot do a better thing or be in a righter place. January 16th, 1917. My own sweet mother, I can see no excuse for deceiving you about these last 4 days. I have suffered 7th hell. I've not been at the front. I've been in front of it. Every 10 minutes on Sunday afternoons seemed an hour. My dugout held 25 men tight-packed. I nearly broke down and let myself drown in the water, slowly rising over my knees. In the platoon on my left, the sentries in the dugout were blown to nothing. I allow myself to tell you these things because I am never going back to this awful place. We are wretched beyond my previous imagination.
Wilfred, I am sending you the additional wants: safety razors and blades, socks, handkerchiefs, celluloid soap container, cigarette holder, and paraffin for hair.
I can't wash my hair and have taken to washing my face with snow. They want to call no man's land England because we hold supremacy there. It is pockmarked like a body of foulest disease, and its odour is the breath of cancer. Under snow, it is like the face of the moon, chaotic, crater-riddled, uninhabitable, awful. Oh, to call it England.
Since we believe not, otherwise can kind fires burn. Now ever suns smile true on child or field or fruit. For God's invincible spring our love is made afraid. Therefore not loath we lie out here, therefore we're born, for love of God seems dying. Tonight his frost will fasten on this mud and us, shriveling many hands and puckering foreheads crisp. The burying party, picks and shovels in their shaking grasp, pause over half-known faces. All their eyes are ice.
For 12 days, I did not wash my face, nor take off my boots, nor sleep a deep sleep. For 12 days we lay in holes where at any moment a shell might put us out. I think the worst incident was a wet night when we lay up against a railway embankment. A big shell hit the top of the bank just 2 yards from my head. I was blown right in the air away from the bank. I passed most of the following days in a railway cutting, in a hole just big enough to lie in and covered with corrugated iron. My brother officer lay opposite, in a similar hole, but he was covered in earth, and no relief will ever relieve him, nor will his rest be a 9 days' rest.
If I have not written, it is because I have hundreds of inquiries about missing men unanswered.
2nd of May 1917. Casualty clearing station. Dearest mother, here again. The doctor was suddenly moved to forbid me to go into action next time the battalion go, which will be in a day or two. I did not go sick or anything, but he's worried about my nerves, and having satisfied myself that though in action I bear a charmed life and no man of woman born can hurt me, or my flesh and bone. Regarding my nerves, they've, well, not come out without a scratch. Do not for a moment suppose I'm having a breakdown. I'm merely avoiding one.
Dearest Wilfred, the fact that you are in hospital means that all cause of uneasiness about you is removed from me.
Stationary hospital. Dearest mother, I wondered why it was such an effort to write the short notes of a day or two ago. I discovered that I'd had a temperature of 102.3, and I'm still feverish, but on the right side of 100. I suppose it was trench fever that had been incubating all this time, but they don't say what it is, and I don't think they know. It is quite out of the question to write for today's post. 6th of June, 1917. Dearest mother, I go down today. Where to? Nobody knows.
26th of June 1917. Craig Lockhart War Hospital, Midlothian. Wilfred, I could come to meet you.
Yes, if you come Friday morning, we could lunch.
I will meet you at the Caledonian, Wilfred.
Oh, my own dear mother. I felt such exultation when I saw you gliding up to me veiled in azure at the Caledonian. I thought you looked very, very, very beautiful and well under the veil, but without the veil I saw better the supreme beauty of the ashes of all your sacrifice. For father, for me, for all of us. At present I am a sick man in hospital, and at night a poet for a quarter of an hour after breakfast, and not before January 1917 did I write the only lines of mine that carry a stamp of maturity.
But the old happiness is unreturning. Boys have no grief so grievous as youth's yearning. Boys have no sadness sadder than our hope.
I've just been reading Siegfried Sassoon, and I'm feeling at a very high pitch of emotion. Nothing like his trench life sketches has ever been written or will ever be written. Shakespeare reads vapid after these, not, of course, because Sassoon is a greater artist, but because of the subject matter, I mean.
That is why I have not yet dared to go up to him and parley in a casual way. He is here, you know.
At last, an event worthy of a letter. I have beknown myself to Siegfried Sassoon. The last thing he said was, "Sweat your guts out writing poetry." Tonight he called me into him, and having condemned some of my poems, amended others, and rejoiced in more than a few, he read me his very last works, which are superb beyond anything in his books. Last night he wrote a piece which is the most exquisitely painful war poem of any language or time. I do not tell him so, or that I am not worthy to light his pipe. I merely sit back and tell him where I think he goes wrong.
No wonder you are so happy. And do you like him as a man and a friend as well as a poet?
I do. He is tall and noble looking and 31. As a friend, he is intensely sympathetic. As for the poet, well, you know my opinion.
I humbly desire you to keep these letters. I send you my 2 best war poems. Sassoon supplied the title Anthem, just what I meant it to be.
My own dear mother, on Saturday I met Robert Graves. He is a big, rather plain fellow, the last man on earth apparently capable of the extraordinary, delicate fancies in his books. When he and Sassoon were together, he showed him my longish war poem, Disabled. You haven't seen it yet. And it seems Graves was mightily impressed and considers me a kind of a find. No, thank you, Mr. Graves. I'll find myself in due time.
29th of October. My dearest mother, I hear this morning that I am to be boarded next Tuesday and sent away.
I'm rather upset about it, especially as I'm so happy here with Sassoon. Spent all day with him yesterday, breakfast, lunch, tea, dinner.
Hence no letter today.
Wilfred was discharged from Craig Lockhart and given 3 weeks' leave. The doctors agreed that he was permanently unfit for overseas service. He spent some of his leave at Shrewsbury, then left to rejoin his old unit, now based in Scarborough.
Dearest mother, I have been put on a species of light duty at Scarborough, which I little expected. I think I am to be marked permanent home service.
I can think of nothing at the moment but Robert Graves' letter, which came by the same post as your parcel. He says, "Don't make any mistake, Owen. You're a fine poet and will be more so. So puff out your chest a little and be big, for you have more right than most of us. You must help to revolutionize English poetry, so outlive this war."
31st of December 1917. I go out of this year a poet, my dear mother, as which I did not enter it. I am held peer by the Georgians. I am a poet's poet.
And so I have come to the true measure of man. I am not dissatisfied with my years. Everything has been done in bouts. Bouts of awful labour in Shrewsbury and Bordeaux, bouts of amazing pleasure in the Pyrenees and at Craig Lockhart, bouts of religion at Dunstan, bouts of horrible danger at the Somme, bouts of poetry always. But this time last year I lay awake in a windy tent in the middle of a dreadful encampment. And tonight I thought of the very strange look on all the faces in that camp. It was not despair. It was not terror. It was more terrible than terror. It will never be painted. No actor will ever seize it. And to describe it, I think I must go back and be with them.
Jesus Christ, one fellow sighed, and kneeled and bowed, though not in prayer, and died. And the bullets sang, in vain. Machine guns chuckled, vain. Big guns guffawed, in vain.
The last words seem to have had a rather harrowing effect on you. I hope it was not too much. Let us therefore think of more enduring things, my lovely mother. I could face the world's facts better if I could be sure of at least your health and peacefulness at this time. Don't let your fires burn low. Don't leave off winter clothing. Don't eat pickles, and don't read newspapers. Thus you'll keep well.
By early May of 1918, Wilfred had reached the 3rd division of fitness, and leave was available to him. So he decided to go to London, where he could continue to write.
20th of May. My reception in London has been magnificent. I'm rather proud to have got so far. 1 published poem.
5 years ago, this would have turned your head.
It would indeed, but nowadays my head only turns in shame away from the first flickers of limelight. For I am old already for a poet, and so little is yet achieved. And I want no limelight, and celebrity is the last infirmity I desire. Fame is the recognition by one's peers.
You already have more than their recognition.
24th of June 1918. Back in my tent in Scarborough. But stand back and away from the page and disinfect yourself. Quite 1/3 of the battalion and about 30 officers are quite smitten with the Spanish flu. The thing is much too common for me to take part in. I've quite decided not to. 10th of August, 1918. Tomorrow I'm for a medical inspection to be declared fit for draft. I'm much gladder to be going out again than afraid. I shall be better able to cry my outcry by playing my part.
I am quite wretched tonight, missing you so much. Not everybody of my years can boast, or, as many would say, confess, that their mother is absolute in their affections. But I believe it will always be with me. Always.
There is nothing on heaven or earth like you. And that's why I can't write a poem for you.
Oh, dear Wilfred, you are a poem for me.
In the field. As you must have known by both my silence and from the newspapers which mention this decision, I've been in action for many days. It passed the limits of my abhorrence. I lost all my earthly faculties and fought like an angel.
I have been recommended for a military cross and have recommended every single NCO who was with me.
Oh, my nerves are in perfect order. I came out in order to help these boys by directly leading them as well as an officer can, indirectly by watching their suffering so I may speak for them as well as a pleader can. I have done the first, and of whose blood lies crimson on my shoulder where his head was, and where so lately yours was, I must not now write. Smiling, they wrote his lie. Aged 19 years, Germans he scarcely thought of. All their guilt and Austria's did not move him, and no fears of fear came yet. He thought of jewelled hilts for daggers in plaid socks, of smart salutes and care of arms and leave and pay arrears, esprit de corps and hints for young recruits. And soon he was drafted out with drums and cheers. Some cheered him home, but not as crowds cheer goal. Only a solemn man who brought him fruits thanked him and then inquired about his soul.
It is all over for a long time. We are marching steadily back. The war is nearing an end. Oh, my son. I am sending you a paragraph from the Times about your dear friend, Robbie Ross.
Thank you. That is affecting to me.
I have sent another parcel.
Oh, Mother, it was too big. Suppose it had reached me near the front, I'd have had to have dumped most of it. Look, please note once more, I don't want any old trunk dance socks, no use at all.
All right, Wilfred. You shall have new socks if your feet are to remain beautiful, as you say, on the mountains of victory. You and your feet are in my prayers.
Dearest Mother, I am conscious of your prayers. I've been thinking about your restoration to health. About Christmas, you will lengthen your walk, so you'll be ready for my leave in early February. Thank you for everything in the last parcel, except the socks. Thank Father very much for his last letter.
31st of October 1918. This was your last letter, Wilfred.
I will call the place from which I'm writing the smoky cellar. So thick is the smoke I can hardly see by a candle 12 inches away, and so thick are the inmates I can hardly write for pokes, nudges, and jolts. But it is a great life. I am more oblivious than, alas, yourself, dear mother, of the ghastly glimmering of the guns outside, or the hollow crashing of the shells. There is no danger down here, or if any, it will be well over before you read these lines. Of this I'm certain. You could not be visited by a band of friends half so fine as surround me here.
On Monday the 4th of November, Wilfred Owen was killed while trying to repair a bridge. On the 11th of November, the Great War ended, and on that same day as the bells were pealing for victory, his parents received the news by telegram.
2 men from your platoon came to see me today, Wilfred. They told me how you had patted them and said, "You are doing well, my boy, well done." How well I can imagine that encouraging pat of yours. I know your boys loved you. No one could help loving you. Ever. All my dearest love.
Oh, never mourn, my brothers. Well ye know these crimson stains shall vanish from the trees, washed by the precious ointment of the snow. A little while, and drowsy earth's disease shall feel the healing quickness of another June. I only mourn because I cannot tell what spring renewing wakes the sleep of men. I do but know, this I know too well. I shall not see the same sweet life again, nor the dear sun, nor stars, nor tender moon.